Major Frank Daniels stood at the window of Earth Command Center, his eyes fixed on the night sky. The stars looked different tonight. Some of them were moving. "Sir, we're tracking 7 objects entering Earth orbit. They're slowing down. Nothing like this in our records." The young officer's voice cracked slightly. Frank nodded. After 25 years in the military, he had trained for many scenarios, but first contact wasn't one of them. "Alert the Secretary General. Wake everyone who needs to be awake." Within an hour, every screen on Earth showed the same image. 7 gleaming ships, each shaped like a perfect teardrop hanging in the sky. Their hulls reflected sunlight like polished mirrors. No visible weapons, no visible engines, just silent, impossible power. By morning, the world's leaders had gathered virtually. Ambassador Susan Wright was chosen to lead communications. Her calm voice and sharp mind had solved international crises before, but nothing like this. "We're receiving a transmission," said the communications officer. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies, in perfect English." The message was simple. "We are the Galactic Council. We come to welcome humanity to the greater community of civilized species. Prepare a landing area." 3 days later, Frank stood behind Ambassador Wright at the United Nations landing pad in New York. 7 aliens emerged from a smaller vessel that had detached from the main ships. Each looked different. The one in front walked on 2 legs, but had blue-tinted skin and eyes that seemed too large for its narrow face. "I am High Counselor Zalvex of the Viridian Dominion, head of the Galactic Council," it said in perfect English, though its mouth moved strangely with the words. "We have observed your species for some time." Susan stepped forward. "Ambassador Susan Wright, representing the United Earth Government. We welcome you in peace and friendship." Zalvex's large eyes blinked slowly. "Yes. Peace. That is our desire as well." The talks began immediately. The Council presented itself as a benevolent organization, guiding younger species into a galactic community. They spoke of trade, cultural exchange, and technological advancement. Frank watched from the back of the room, noting how the aliens avoided direct questions about their military capabilities or the status of other guided species. He caught the eye of Dr. Olivia Peterson, the physicist who had been called in to evaluate the alien technology. She too seemed concerned. On the 4th day, Zalvex presented what he called standard integration protocols. Susan read through them carefully, her expression darkening. "This would place Earth under Council authority," she said. "Our laws would be subject to your approval. Our resources would be allocated by Council administrators." "For your own protection and development," said Zalvex. "Your species is young, prone to conflict. We have guided many others through this difficult transition period." "And if we decline these terms?" Susan asked. The alien's expression didn't change, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "The terms are not optional. We present them as a courtesy." For 3 more days, Susan tried to negotiate better terms. The Council made minor adjustments but refused to budge on the core issues. Earth would submit to Council authority. Human expansion beyond the solar system would require Council approval. Earth's resources would be managed according to Council priorities. Frank received a message from military intelligence. The aliens had been scanning Earth's defenses, mapping everything. On the 7th day, Susan officially rejected the Council's terms. "Humanity must maintain its independence and sovereignty. We welcome friendship and exchange, but not at the cost of our freedom." Zalvex stood. For the first time, he showed something like emotion. Disappointment, perhaps disgust. "We had hoped your species would be reasonable. History suggested otherwise." He gestured to one of the other aliens, a tall insectoid creature. "The Zarlath believed your kind would require demonstration. We had hoped they were wrong." Susan stepped forward. "What demonstration? What are you talking about?" "The Council does not negotiate with primitive species. We guide. When guidance is rejected, we must be firm." Zalvex turned to leave. "Watch the skies, Ambassador. Learn what defiance costs." Frank was already running for the command center when the first reports came in. 2 of the alien ships had moved to new positions, One over Asia, one over Australia. Get me Beijing. Get me Sydney, Frank shouted as he burst into the room. The screens remained blank. What's happening? Communications are down, sir. Some kind of interference from the alien vessels. Frank watched in horror as satellite images showed bright blue light emerging from the alien ships. Not beams or explosions, more like a gentle rain of light falling on the cities below. The light touched buildings, vehicles, streets, and then they began to dissolve. Not burn or explode. Just come apart, block by block, molecule by molecule. In 20 minutes, Beijing and Sydney were gone. Smooth, empty craters where great cities had stood. 15 million lives erased without sound, without fire, without warning. The world watched in stunned silence. Then the panic started. 3 hours later, Susan Wright stood before the remaining council members. Her face was ashen, her hands shaking slightly. The United Earth government acknowledges the council's terms, she said, each word like ash in her mouth. We request time to prepare our people for integration. Zalvex nodded, satisfied. A wise decision, Ambassador. The Council grants Earth 6 standard months to prepare. We will leave a supervisory force to assist with the transition. After the aliens left, Frank found Susan staring out at the New York skyline. They could have destroyed us completely, she whispered. But they didn't, Frank said. They think they've won. They think we're broken. Susan turned to him, her eyes hard now. What are you suggesting, Major? They're powerful, but they've shown their hand too soon. They expect us to be primitive and predictable. Frank leaned closer. Let's show them how humans really respond to bullies. Susan nodded slowly. They expect submission. We'll give them exactly that, on the surface. Meanwhile, we prepare, Frank finished. They've never faced humans before. They have no idea what's coming. That night, as the alien ship settled into monitoring positions around Earth, the real work began. In hidden facilities, in encrypted communications, in whispered conversations, a plan took shape. The plan that would become humanity's brutal counterstrike. Olivia Peterson studied the readings from the alien weapons. Alan Garcia gathered intelligence from the peacekeeping forces that landed. And Frank Daniels began to assemble the most important fighting force in human history. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They had given humanity 6 months to prepare. 6 months to learn. 6 months to adapt. 6 months to plan revenge. And humans had always been very, very good at revenge. 6 weeks after the destruction of Beijing and Sydney, Frank Daniels walked through the streets of Chicago with his head down. Council peacekeepers patrolled everywhere. Tall, insect-like Zarloth soldiers in gleaming armor carried weapons that could tear apart buildings. They watched humans with their compound eyes, mandibles clicking in what Frank had learned was amusement. Frank entered a small coffee shop and sat in the corner. A minute later, Dr. Olivia Peterson joined him. Her lab coat was gone, replaced by plain clothes. Her blonde hair was now brown. Small changes to avoid attention. Were you followed? Frank asked quietly. Olivia shook her head. I took 3 different trains to get here. The Zarloth don't pay attention to ordinary humans anyway. We're just ants to them. That's their mistake, Frank said. What have you found? Olivia pulled out a tablet and slid it across the table. On the screen was a complex diagram. This is how their weapons work. They don't actually destroy matter. They shift it. Shift it where? Another dimension. Basically, they're not more powerful than us. They're just working with different rules. Olivia's eyes brightened with excitement. And I think I can build something that disrupts this technology. Frank felt a spark of hope for the first time in weeks. How long? 3 months, maybe 4. I need materials that are hard to get without the council noticing. You'll have them, Frank promised. What about their shields? That's harder, Olivia admitted. But I've been talking to someone who might help. Frank raised an eyebrow. A council member? a Hikari scientist named Malavin. They're the blue ones with 4 arms. She doesn't agree with what the council did to Earth. Frank frowned. Can you trust her? I think so. The Hikari joined the council because they were given no choice, just like us. They've been looking for allies. Frank nodded slowly. Be careful. The council has spies everywhere. As if to prove his point, the door opened and 3 Viridians entered the coffee shop. Unlike the warrior Zarlath, the Viridians looked almost human except for their blue skin and large eyes. They were the leaders, the thinkers, the ones who gave the orders. Frank and Olivia looked down at their coffee cups. Just 2 humans having a drink. Nothing interesting. The Viridians barely glanced at them. Humans all looked the same to them. Later, that day Frank met Commander Alan Garcia in an underground parking garage. Alan had been assigned as human liaison to the council forces, a position that gave him access to their communications. The council thinks everything is going according to plan, Alan reported. The Viridian High Command is already making plans to harvest Earth's oceans. They need the water for their colonies. Frank clenched his fists. And our people? We would be relocated to work camps on Mars. Alan's face was grim. They don't consider us worth keeping on a premium world like Earth? How many ships do they have in our system now? 23. Most are transport vessels bringing in council administrators and taking our resources out. Only 5 are actual warships, and 3 of those are scheduled to leave next month. Frank smiled slightly. They really don't see us as a threat. Why would they? Their technology is centuries ahead of ours, or so they think. Frank nodded. Keep feeding me information. And Alan, stay alive. 3 months passed. On the surface, humanity was submitting to council rule. New laws were obeyed. Resources were handed over. Protests were rare and quickly silenced. Below the surface, a different story was unfolding. In an abandoned subway tunnel beneath Detroit, Olivia Peterson stood before a group of engineers and scientists. Behind her was a large device covered by a tarp. This is what we've been working on, she said, pulling off the tarp to reveal a cannon-like machine. We call it the Shifter. It uses the council's own dimensional technology against them. One of the engineers stepped forward. You mean it can... Yes, Olivia said. It can bypass their shields completely. Their ships are vulnerable once this hits them. A cheer went up from the group, quickly hushed. We've built 10 so far, Olivia continued, but we need at least 50 to take back Earth. What about their ground forces? Someone asked. Olivia smiled and held up what looked like a simple metal sphere. This disrupts their armor systems. One of these can take down a Zarlath patrol in seconds. On the other side of the world, in what was once Stockholm, Susan Wright met with a Hikari named Malavin. The blue-skinned alien's 4 arms moved nervously as they spoke in hushed tones. My people will help when the time comes, Malavin said, her voice a soft bubbling sound. But you must understand something about the council. They have never lost a war. They have never even faced serious resistance. If you fail, we won't fail, Susan said firmly. But we need to know which ships to target first. Which ones control their communication network? Malavin's large eyes blinked slowly. The one they call Voice of Order. It orbits your moon, but it is heavily guarded. We'll handle the guards, Susan promised. 5 months after the attack on Earth, the Council began to reduce its military presence. More warships left the system, replaced by administrative vessels. The Zarlath patrols became less frequent. The Council believed humanity was broken, accepting its place in the Galactic Order. In a hidden facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Frank Daniels addressed 200 soldiers, men and women from every nation on Earth, all veterans, all volunteers. In 1 month, we take back our planet, he told them. The Council thinks we're primitive, they think we're predictable, they think we've surrendered. He pointed to a large map showing Council positions around the world. They're wrong. Humanity doesn't surrender. We adapt, we plan, we wait for the right moment. Frank looked at each face in the room, seeing determination and controlled anger. The Council killed 15 million of us to teach us a lesson. Soon, we're going to teach them one. And I promise you this. They will never forget it. The soldiers stood straighter, eyes bright with purpose. Outside the hidden facility, snow fell on the mountains. In cities around the world, Council aliens walked without fear among the humans they had conquered. In orbit, Council ships moved with impunity, never scanning for threats, never expecting resistance. They had no idea what was coming. 6 months and 1 day after the destruction of Beijing and Sydney, at exactly 3 a.m. local time across the globe, Operation Shadow Strike began. Lieutenant Catherine Barnes crouched in the darkness near the Council's North American headquarters in Washington, D.C. Once this had been the Pentagon. Now it was filled with Viridian administrators and Zarloth guards. Her team of 30 soldiers waited silently around her, each carrying weapons that did not exist 6 months ago. "Strike teams in position worldwide," came the whisper through her earpiece. It was Frank's voice, calm and steady. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1. Execute." Catherine gave the hand signal. Her team activated their new tech, personal shield generators reverse-engineered from Council armor. They glowed blue for a second, then became invisible. "Move out," she ordered. They rushed the building. The Zarloth guards saw them coming and raised their weapons. Energy beams sliced through the air and passed harmlessly through the humans. The aliens had just enough time to click their mandibles in confusion before Catherine's team fired their own weapons. The disruptor guns made almost no sound. Small metal spheres shot out and exploded into clouds of silver dust that surrounded the Zarloth. Their armor sparked, smoked, and shut down. The mighty warriors fell to the ground, unable to move in their now heavy suits. Inside the building, Viridian administrators ran for safety. None made it to the alarm systems. "North American headquarters secure," Catherine reported into her comm. "All aliens contained, no casualties on either side." Similar reports flooded in from around the world: London, Moscow, Tokyo, Cairo, Sao Paulo. In every major city, human strike teams took control of Council facilities within minutes. In orbit above Earth, Alan Garcia sat in the control center of a small maintenance ship. For months he had worked as a human assistant on Council vessels, learning their systems while being treated like a pet. Tonight, that would change. "Package is ready," he said into his hidden comm unit. Approaching voice of order now. The massive communications ship loomed ahead of him, a silver-blue teardrop hanging against the black of space. His maintenance vessel was cleared to approach. The Council needed human workers for simple repairs, jobs too menial for their own people. His ship docked. Alan prepared the special cargo Olivia had given him. It looked like a simple toolbox. It wasn't. "Beginning Phase 2, he reported. Inside voice of order, a Viridian controller named Zelmore watched the maintenance ship dock. Another human coming to fix the waste systems. How primitive these creatures were, barely able to understand the AudioBook technology they now served. In a few generations they would make decent servants. For now, they were just annoyances. Zelmore turned back to his console, monitoring communications across the Earth system. Everything was normal, peaceful, as it should be. He didn't notice when his screen flickered briefly. Across the ship, every system experienced the same momentary glitch. The Council crew blamed it on the human maintenance workers. They were always breaking things. None of them realized that Alan had just uploaded a virus into their systems. A virus that gave humans control of every communication channel in Earth's orbit. On Earth, Frank Daniels watched the global operation from a command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. Screen after screen showed successful takeovers of Council facilities. No alarms had been raised. The Council still didn't know what was happening. "Begin Phase 3, he ordered. Around the world, Olivia's shifter cannons were rolled out from their hiding places, 50 massive weapons, each aimed at a Council ship in orbit. "All shifters report ready," said the weapons officer. Frank took a deep breath. This was the moment that would decide humanity's fate. "Fire!" 50 beams of golden light shot upward, from Earth. Each one struck a council ship. There was no explosion, no debris. The ships simply vanished, shifted into the same dimension the council had sent parts of Beijing and Sydney. In orbit, the remaining council ships finally realized they were under attack. They raised shields and prepared weapons. Communication. Blackout successful, reported Alan from Voice of Order. They can't call for help. The council ships began firing on Earth. Their energy weapons headed for major cities but never reached their targets. Invisible shields, based on their own technology but improved by Olivia's team, deflected every shot. On the council command, ship. Zalvex watched in disbelief as human vessels rose from hidden bases on Earth and the Moon. Not primitive vessels like the ones humans had used before the council arrived. These ships gleamed with new technology. Council technology, modified and improved. Impossible, he whispered. They cannot have learned so much so quickly. Sir, said a Zarlath commander, the humans are hailing us. Zalvex straightened his blue robes. Put them through. Susan Wright's face appeared on the screen. Behind her stood Frank Daniels and Olivia Peterson. Greetings, High Counselor, Susan said calmly. As you can see, humanity has decided to renegotiate the terms of our relationship with the Council. This is outrageous, Zalvex sputtered. You cannot possibly hope to defeat the might of the Galactic Council. When our fleet arrives, your fleet won't be arriving, Susan interrupted. You can't call for help, you can't warn them, and one by one your ships are disappearing. As if to emphasize her point, another Council vessel vanished, struck by a shifter beam from Earth. We don't want to destroy you all, Susan continued. Unlike the Council, humans don't believe in unnecessary killing. Surrender your ships and you will be allowed to leave our system unharmed. Zalvex's large eyes blinked rapidly. And if we refuse? Frank stepped forward. Then we continue using the weapons you so kindly introduced us to. How many more ships can you afford to lose? For the first time in Council history, a Viridian High Counselor faced total defeat. Zalvex looked around at his command crew. More reports of lost ships were coming in every minute. We will withdraw, he said finally. But the Council will return with a force that will erase your species from existence. Susan smiled. We'll be ready. We always are. The Council surrendered all remaining ships except for Zalvex's command vessel and 2 escorts. As they prepared to leave Earth orbit, Frank ordered a boarding party to capture Zalvex himself. We need him alive, Frank told Catherine as she prepared her team. He's going to help us deliver a message to the Council. Catherine nodded grimly. With pleasure, sir. Her team boarded the command ship with ease. The Council had never prepared for humans who could bypass their shields and security systems. They found Zalvex trying to erase data from the ship's computers. Hello, Counselor, Catherine said, training her weapon on him. Humanity would like a word with you. 72 hours after Operation Shadow Strike began, Earth was free of Council control. The human resistance had captured countless pieces of alien technology, and one very important prisoner. In cities worldwide, people celebrated in the streets. The aliens who had looked down on them, who had killed millions to teach them obedience, were gone. But Frank, Susan, and Olivia knew the war had only just begun. The Council would return, and next time, they wouldn't underestimate humanity. What, now? Olivia asked as they watched Zalvex being led to a secure facility. Frank's eyes hardened. Now we take the fight to them. 2 weeks after Earth's liberation, Fleet Admiral Kevin Reeves stood on the bridge of the newly christened ESS Defiance. Once, it had been a Council warship. Now it flew Earth's colors. Around him, a fleet of 30 ships prepared to leave orbit. Some were captured Council vessels. Others were human ships enhanced with new technology. All ships report ready, Admiral, said his first officer. Kevin nodded. Begin jump sequence. Dr. Olivia Peterson had discovered the secret to the Council's faster-than-light travel. She called it fold space technology. It didn't move through space. It folded space itself, bringing distant points together for an instant. The Council thought it would take humans centuries to understand this science. Olivia had figured it out in months. The fleet vanished from Earth orbit in flashes of blue light. Their destination, Proxima Station, the nearest Council outpost. Back on Earth, Frank Daniels interrogated Zalvex. The Viridian High Counselor sat across from him in a simple room. No chains, no restraints. They weren't needed. Where would he go? Your attack fleet will be destroyed, Zalvex said, his blue skin pale with stress. The Council has thousands of ships. How many ships did you need to conquer most species? Frank asked. Usually less than 10, Zalvex admitted. Most surrender after the first demonstration of our power. But we didn't. No, humans are unusually stubborn. Frank leaned forward. We're not just stubborn, we learn, we adapt. Right now, your council has no idea what's coming for them. Fear flickered in Zalvex's large eyes. What do you want from me? Information. About council weak points. About other species who might join us. You would start a galactic war? Zalvex seemed genuinely shocked. Billions would die. You started this war, Frank said coldly, when you destroyed 2 of our cities. Now we're going to finish it. At Proxima Station, the human fleet emerged. From fold space. The Council outpost was a massive ring-shaped structure with dozens of docked ships. Kevin gave the Council vessels 3 minutes to surrender. 2 did. The rest prepared to fight. Deploy shifters, Kevin ordered. Modified versions of Olivia's weapon fired from the human ships. 5 Council vessels vanished instantly. The others raised shields and returned fire. But the human fleet didn't fight like the Council expected. Instead of forming a line and exchanging fire, the Earth ships darted in and out of range, attacking from multiple angles. Their shields, based on Council tech but improved by human engineers, absorbed hits that should have destroyed them. Target their communication array, Kevin ordered. Don't let them warn the Council. A small, fast ship broke from the human formation. Captain Lisa Harmon piloted it directly toward the station's central hub. Beginning infiltration, she reported. Her team of 6 specialists had trained for this mission for weeks. They knew exactly what to do. They docked at an emergency airlock, bypassed security, and entered the station's control center. The Council commanders never saw them coming. Within 10 minutes, Lisa's team had control of the entire station. Proxima Station is ours, Admiral, Lisa reported. And I found something interesting. The station's database has locations of all major Council supply depots. Kevin smiled. Copy the data and prepare for our next stop. In the following weeks, the human fleet struck Council targets across 3 star systems. They never attacked civilian worlds or population centers. They focused on military outposts, supply lines, and communication hubs. The Council was thrown into confusion. In their thousands of years of expansion, no species had ever counterattacked like this. They sent ships to defend key locations, but the humans never appeared where expected. The fold space technology let them strike anywhere, anytime, without warning. On the Council homeworld of Viridian Prime, the remaining High Counselors met in an emergency session. How are they doing this? Demanded Counselor Mayrath. They were primitive 6 months ago. They've improved our own technology, admitted the science director. They understand principles that took us centuries to develop. And they've been broadcasting proof of our attack on Earth to every species in Council space, added another counselor. The Hikari have officially broken their treaty with us. 3 other subject worlds are in open revolt. Meanwhile, at the Yaolai, edge of Council space, Dr. Olivia Peterson prepared to test her newest creation. She stood in a laboratory on a captured Council science vessel, surrounded by both human and Hikari scientists. If this works, she told them, we can end this war without more bloodshed. The device looked simple, a silver sphere about the size of a basketball. But inside was technology that even the Council had never mastered. The Council's shields work by creating a barrier that blocks physical objects and energy, Olivia explained. But they allow air, light, and sound through so their own people can function normally. This device sends a signal on that same frequency, bypassing their shields completely. What will it do to them? Asked a Hikari scientist. Nothing harmful, Olivia assured them. It will disable their technology, not hurt living beings. The test was successful, The device shut down all Council tech within a kilometer radius. Olivia immediately sent the plans to Admiral Reeves and the production facilities on Earth. "We call it the blackout wave," she wrote. "With enough of these, we can disable Council ships and bases without destroying them." While the human fleet continued its surgical strikes, Ambassador Susan Wright worked on a different front. Using the captured communication networks, she broadcast evidence of Council war crimes to every inhabited world. "The Council claims to bring civilization and guidance," she told billions of viewers across the galaxy. "But they bring only submission and death to those who refuse them. Earth was attacked without provocation. Millions were killed to teach us obedience." Her broadcast included footage of the destruction of Beijing and Sydney, recovered from Council records. It showed Council leaders calmly discussing the demonstration, as if erasing 15 million lives was nothing more than a teaching moment. "Humanity does not seek conquest," Susan continued. "We seek justice. We seek a galaxy where all species are free to determine their own future. Join us." Her message reached countless worlds, including many that had lived under Council control for centuries. Seeds of rebellion took root across the galaxy. 3 months after leaving Earth, the human fleet prepared for its boldest move yet. Admiral Reeves gathered his captains for a final briefing. "Our next target is Viridian Prime itself," he told them. "The heart of the Council. We'll take the fight directly to their doorstep." Some captains looked nervous, others excited. "This isn't about revenge," Kevin reminded them. "This is about showing the Council they can no longer do as they please. This is about freedom, not just for Earth, but for every species they've subjugated." The fleet prepared to jump. Behind them lay a trail of disabled Council bases and freed worlds. Ahead lay the most heavily defended planet in the galaxy. No one knew what would happen next. But of one thing they were certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. The human fleet emerged from fold space at the edge of the Viridian system. 37 ships against the hundreds that protected the Council homeworld. On paper, it looked like suicide. But humans had never fought by the numbers. Admiral Kevin Reeves studied the tactical display. The Council defense fleet was arranged in traditional formation, a sphere of protection around Viridian Prime. They were expecting a direct assault. "They still don't understand how we think," Kevin said to his officers. "Begin Operation Trojan." Instead of attacking, the human fleet broadcast a distress signal. Several ships vented atmosphere and drifted, appearing damaged. Others flickered their lights as if experiencing power failures. The Council commanders observed this with confusion. Then triumph. They had been told the human fleet was formidable, but here they were, breaking down at the edge of the system. Perhaps their stolen technology had finally failed them. A Council battle group moved to investigate. As they approached the damaged human vessels, small devices attached to their hulls. Olivia's blackout waves activated, and one by one, the Council ships went dark. No weapons, no engines, no communications. While the Council fleet focused on the apparent easy victory, a second human force slipped past their lines. Frank Daniels, now a general, led 3 stealth vessels directly toward Viridian Prime. With him were Susan Wright, Catherine Barnes, and a team of Earth's best soldiers. Their ships were nearly invisible, using technology the Council had deemed theoretical, but humans had made real. They landed on the outskirts of the Council capital city without being detected. "Phase 1 complete," Frank reported. "Beginning ground assault." But it wasn't an assault in the traditional sense. Catherine's team used blackout wave devices on key points throughout the city. Council security systems failed. Their weapons went dead. Their vehicles stopped moving. Meanwhile, in orbit, the rest of the human fleet sprang into action. The damaged ships suddenly came to life, firing shifter cannons that sent Council vessels into dimensional limbo. Others deployed hundreds of small drones that attached blackout waves to larger targets. "We have control of sectors 3 through 7, Catherine reported from the planet's surface, moving toward the Council chambers. At the same time, across Council space, other subjugated species began their own rebellions. The Hikari led the charge, using technology shared by Olivia to free their homeworld. 3 other species, the Neri, the Voldar, and the Quantar, rose up against their council overseers. The council was fighting fires on a dozen fronts, and losing. In the Grand Council chambers on Viridian Prime, the 7 High Counselors argued over how to respond to the crisis. "We must use the planet killers," insisted Counselor Drenthal. "Destroy Earth entirely. Make an example of them. That would only turn more species against us," argued another. "The humans have exposed our methods to the galaxy. We need to—" The doors to the chamber burst open. Frank Daniels walked in, followed by Susan Wright and a team of human soldiers. The council guards lay unconscious outside, their advanced armor reduced to useless metal by blackout waves. "The council is hereby dissolved," Frank announced. The counselors stared in shock. No enemy had ever set foot in this chamber. It was supposed to be impossible. "This is outrageous," sputtered one. "You have no authority here." "We have the authority of every species you've conquered and oppressed," Susan said, stepping forward, "including over 50 worlds that have declared independence from the Council in the last 24 hours. The oldest counselor, Venzar, raised a hand for silence. "What do you want, humans? Revenge? Our surrender? The destruction of our civilization?" Susan shook her head. "We're not like you. We don't destroy civilizations to make a point." She activated a hologram showing the current state of the galaxy. Red lights showed liberated worlds. Blue showed those still under council control. The red vastly outnumbered the blue. "Your empire is falling," Susan told them. "Not because of our weapons, but because of your actions. You ruled through fear, and now that fear is gone." "What happens now?" asked Venzar. Frank stepped forward. "Now you will face justice for your crimes. Now the species of this galaxy will decide their own futures." Over the next several hours, human forces secured the capital. Council leaders were detained but treated humanely. There was no slaughter, no revenge killings. The human victory was absolute, but it was not cruel. Admiral Reeves' fleet maintained position around Viridian Prime, not as conquerors but as peacekeepers. Delegations from former council worlds began arriving for what would become known as the Freedom Conclave. 1 week later, representatives from 37 species gathered in the former council chambers. Susan Wright stood before them, flanked by Frank Daniels and Malavin of the Hikari. "Today marks the beginning of a new era," Susan told the assembled delegates. "No longer will any species dominate others through force. No longer will technology be hoarded by the few to control the many." She proposed a new organization to replace the Council, the Galactic Alliance. A cooperative body where all species would have equal voice, where technology and knowledge would be shared freely, where aggression would be met with united resistance. "Humanity doesn't seek to replace the Council as rulers of the galaxy," Susan assured them. "We seek partners, equals friends." The vote to form the alliance was unanimous. Later that day, Frank found Olivia on a balcony overlooking the Viridian capital. The alien city was beautiful, with spiraling towers that caught the light of 3 moons. "Hard to believe we did all this in less than a year," Olivia said, gazing at the stars. "Humans are good at impossible things," Frank replied. "It's kind of our specialty." "The Council never understood us," Olivia mused. "They thought technology was what made them superior. But it wasn't their tech that failed them. It was their imagination," Frank finished. "They couldn't imagine being defeated, so they never prepared for it. They couldn't imagine a species valuing freedom more than life." "What happens next?" Olivia asked. Frank looked out at the vast city, then up at the stars beyond. "We go home. We rebuild. We make sure nothing like the Council ever threatens Earth again." He smiled slightly. "And then, we explore. There's a whole galaxy out there, and humans have always been curious." 3 months later, on Earth, a memorial was unveiled where Sydney once stood. A simple stone marker with the names of every person lost in the attack. Beside it stood a similar memorial for Beijing, and above them both a single sentence carved in dozens of languages human and alien alike. Never again will any species suffer for the crime of wanting to be free. In orbit above Earth, ships from 20 different worlds gathered for the first official meeting of the Galactic Alliance. Among them were former Council species now liberated, and others that had remained independent by hiding on the fringes of known space. The ESS Defiance led the honor guard. On its bridge, Admiral Reeves watched Earth grow larger in the view screen. "Send the message," he ordered. Across all channels, in all languages, the same words went out to every corner of the galaxy. "To all species who value freedom and self-determination, Earth welcomes you. The stars belong to everyone now." The Galactic Council was gone. In its place stood something new, an alliance built not on fear, but on mutual respect and cooperation. An alliance where humanity's strength wasn't in conquest, but in bringing others together. The galaxy would never forget the lesson. Never underestimate humans. They don't stay down, they don't give up, and they never, ever forget.